Welcome to Infectious Disease Lesson 2.4, How Can We Prove Infection Causes Disease? The goals of this lesson are to apply Koch's postulates to distinguish correlation from causation using historical examples, and to convey the challenges in proving causation by highlighting the limitations of Koch's postulates. At the end of the lesson, the students should be able to define Koch's postulates, apply Koch's postulates to investigations of infectious disease, and describe one limitation of each postulate. We will achieve these goals with a group brainstorm about the difference between correlation and causation, and a lecture about two historical cases of Koch's postulates, anthrax and cholera. To prepare for this lesson, you'll need to review the following key scientific concepts. Correlation is not the same as causation, and Koch's postulates can be used to demonstrate causation, but all four postulates need to be fulfilled: association, isolation, causation, and re-isolation. You can review the scientific content in the background reading provided for you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in this lesson. The teacher manual, or lesson plan, provides a minute-by-minute explanation of the lesson structure, and the student workbook provides additional explanation for students. Note that an annotated version is also available for teachers. Be sure to print the lesson worksheet and the homework handout on stomach ulcers, both of which are located in the Lesson 2.4 curriculum materials. The key points of the do now are that correlation alone does not reveal causation, and causation can only be tested through experimentation, not by intuition. We'll get there by brainstorming the difference between correlation and causation. The do now begins by asking students to consider the difference between correlation and causation. This graphic can be used as an example of a correlation that is clearly not causative. Note that the lesson worksheet will be used throughout the do now and the discussion. Next, the students consider how we can tell the difference between a microbe that causes a disease and one that is only associated with a disease. The key point is to introduce the idea that intuition cannot be used to assess causation. Only experimentation can do this. The key point of the discussion is that Koch's postulates can be used to demonstrate causation, but all four postulates need to be fulfilled. We'll get there by walking students through Koch's postulates. We begin walking through Koch's postulates using anthrax as an example. In brief, Koch found that healthy cows did not have bacteria in their blood, while infected cows did. Koch took a small sample of blood from an infected cow and injected it into a healthy one, and the healthy animal became sick. But there could have been other unidentified agents in the blood causing the disease, so Koch filtered the bacteria out of the blood and grew it in pure culture. He then injected these bacteria into healthy animals, and they got sick too. Please note that this slide is animated and that more detail about the case can be found in the teacher manual. Koch's postulates are then listed, with an emphasis on the aspects of each that are often difficult or impossible to demonstrate. Next, we walk through how Koch applied the postulates to prove that cholera is caused by a bacteria. When presenting the postulate, it is important to emphasize that there are exceptions and challenges to proving each. First, he showed association by confirming that all people with cholera have diarrhea that contains high concentrations of bacteria. Next, Koch isolated the bacteria into pure culture. He then used the pure bacteria to cause disease in healthy animals. Koch then showed that he could re-isolate the same bacteria from the infected animal. The key point of the lesson's wrap-up is that proving causation is difficult, and sometimes Koch's postulates cannot be fulfilled. We get there by discussing the exceptions and challenges to fulfilling all of Koch's postulates. The key points of the lesson's homework are that common diseases might be caused by infectious agents that remain unidentified, and carefully designed experiments are necessary to prove Koch's postulates. We'll get there by having the students research stomach ulcers and designing an experiment to test the hypothesis that stomach ulcers are caused by excess acid production. Students should use the homework handout to guide their research and design this experiment. Note that the handout also includes guided questions to help students practice experimental design for the activity in the next lesson. Students often use their intuition to evaluate whether a correlation is causative. Although it is human nature to use logic to assign meaning to association and correlation, this can be very misleading. The only way to prove how factors are related is by experimentation. Additionally, students often ask if you can prove that a disease is not infectious. Unfortunately, it is not possible to prove that a disease is not infectious, so future experiments may reveal an infectious cause for diseases that we currently think result from other mechanisms. At the end of the lesson, collect the lesson worksheets to assess students' ability to describe Koch's postulates. This lesson and the homework prepare students for a case study in Lesson 2.5 where they investigate the possibility that stomach ulcers are caused by a bacteria, H. pylori. Don't forget, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, to let us know. You can contact any of the CTSE team members and we'll be happy to help you.